Now we get to talk about food as medicine, and I am excited to be one of the presenters. We also have our awesome chef, Amanda Pietrobono, who's going to be coming up as well. But just as a brief overview of me, I'm Dr. Meagan Grega. I'm board certified in lifestyle medicine and family medicine. Also the co-founder and chief medical officer of FACLM Foundation with my phenomenal partner, Mr. Eric Ruth in the back, who is the other co-founder of FACLM Foundation. Woo. I do some other stuff too. I teach medical students. I teach family medicine, internal medicine, and psychiatry residents. I'm part of the national movement with the American College of Lifestyle Medicine and the American Board of Lifestyle Medicine, but you can see all that stuff on my bio in the program. So today, we wanted to talk a little bit about food as medicine. We've heard a lot about food this morning. The afternoon is a little bit more some of the other pillars, but I want to kind of really wrap up. What do we mean by this? Like, what is food as medicine? What is this like? So the other key thing, though, if food is medicine, who is the pharmacist? So let's look at this a little bit. Our learning objectives, just so you guys have them up there, is we're going to look at some clinical practice guidelines and the recommendations for optimal dietary patterns. We're also going to talk about the gaps in healthcare education. So who really knows what these guidelines are and how we could actually utilize them to counsel our patients. And then we're going to explore, this is the key part, this is the most important, the practical strategies of how to encourage health behavior change, incorporating more whole plant predominant food choices. And I'll give you a little spoiler alert. It cannot just be the doctors. We need a whole team for this, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. All right, so first we're going to start with a question. True or false? There is no scientific consensus about the components of a healthy diet. Dietary recommendations are constantly changing, and it is impossible to keep up with the latest research. So I want to do this like we do our third grade classrooms. Everybody put your hands out like this. All right? If you say, that's true, there is no scientific consensus, fingers up, so that's true. If you say, no, that's false, there is a scientific consensus, down. And if you're like, I don't know, it's kind of confusing, maybe in the middle, okay. All right, I see a lot of thumbs down, maybe a little bit in the middle. All right. Well, I can understand, let's see, why people might feel a little in the middle, right? Because this is just 10 of the dietary patterns that are out there. I could have put a ton of other ones up there. Things that we name were like low carb, vegan, pescatarian, whatever. It makes most of us do this, right? We're just like, I just need some food. What am I going to eat? So no wonder there seems like there's this no scientific consensus, but that's not true. There is a strong, broad, deep, undoubtedly decided evidence-based consensus. And when you look at the different organizations that have put out recommendations about this, we've got the American Heart Association, we've got the American Stroke Association, the International Society of Hypertension, the American College of Cardiology, American Diabetes Association, and the World Health Organization. This is not fringe, right? These are the people who are saying we basically agree on what is the best, healthiest, optimal diet for human beings. Now, yes, there's some gray zones. They have different things that some of them say do this and other of them say that, but here is the basic, if you smooshed it all together, this is the summary of what they all say. They say follow a low sodium, high potassium dietary pattern that includes consumption of ample servings of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. Some people would add nuts in there, I would, while limiting the amounts of saturated fat, red meat, processed red meat, foods that contain added sugar, added sodium, refined grains, and sugar-sweetened beverages. This is the preferred nutritional approach from all of those experts and more. I could have put the slide up all over the place with even more. So we've already heard from Dr. David Katz a little bit with Dr. Donahue's presentation, but Dr. Katz is a good colleague and friend of mine, and I love this quote of his, which is, for the food industry, confusion is profitable. So that is part of why we're sort of like, I don't know, it's always changing. But then he goes on to say that there is no confusion among experts, and I would say there's no confusion in the literature. A diet high in plant foods, beans, vegetables, nuts, fruits, whole grains, and low in processed foods is the best for health and longevity. But in Dr. Katz's just very erudite and wise way, he also says there's more than one way to eat badly, right? And American culture seems committed to trying them all. So that is why there is so much confusion out there. So let's see if we can kind of work our way through the noise and get to where the actual consensus is. Now, Dr. Donahue had something similar to this slide, but mine is really looking at the state of the US health and what are the risk factors for death, all right? And what you can see is up here now, the most recent studies that come out, if you're an American, your most likely thing that is a risk for death is what you eat. So dietary risks are number one, even above tobacco. When I was in medical school, tobacco was number one. We've gotten to the point where now dietary risks is your number one factor that might be related to whatever causes your death. Now then there's some other stuff down there, or up there I should say, that goes along with potentially what we eat. Having high blood pressure, having a high body mass index, having a high fasting blood sugar, high total cholesterol, impaired kidney function, which we heard quite a bit about with Dr. Weiss, and then alcohol and drug use, and then there's some other stuff in there. Actually, air pollution, should have put that one up because with Dr. Donahue's talk as well. These are the things that are the risk factors for the eventual diseases that actually kill us, so we should be focused on that number one, right? If that's the number one thing, how can we optimize that? And this is how we can optimize that, which is a whole food, and I say plant predominant, because what I really want to do is have people move in the direction of more whole food plants. And I also think the therapeutic dose is key. Like what Dr. Weiss was talking about, if you already have an autoimmune disease, you've got toxic megacolon, I mean, like you need to do something serious fast. You got to move all the way to the end of the spectrum. If you're a 25-year-old who's maybe got a little bit of high, like creeping up high blood pressure, and maybe you got a little bit of high cholesterol, I mean, still, we should catastrophize and say, this is the time to do something. But maybe you don't have to go all the way. But what's the goal? The goal is fill your plate with as much of this stuff as possible. Lots and lots of bright colors. Those are the phytonutrients that Dr. Weiss was talking about. Lots of fiber, lots of whole plant foods. So this would be our goal. But unfortunately, this is our reality, right? So we start out our lives with one type of junk food. As we go along, we pick up different types of junk food. Along the way, lots of ice cream, right? Pizza, which those of you who know me, I always say that's my kryptonite. If I see it, I will have to eat it. Okay, there is sugar-sweet beverages, and these very devious cookies, right? They're just there, right? They're like, you can't just eat one. There's no way. So when we think about what sort of percentage of the American diet is this type of stuff, it's about 2/3. It's about 2/3 of our diet is this. Then another 25% is animal products of some form or another. So only like 12% is what we would call plants, and only half of that are whole plants. So if what is the most likely thing to cause problems for us for our health is our diet, we're basically pouring in the stuff that's going to cause problems. But I get it. I mean, I grew up in a family that was like this. I went through medical school and residency drinking 2 to 3 cans of Coca-Cola a day and French fries from the cafeteria. Like, I get it. It's hard. But actually, we can make it easier. And we can make it easier if we all work together to make it easier. And if we use our team members, like our pharmacists that we're going to be talking about, to help make it easier. Okay. So the good news is it doesn't have to be this way, just like Dr. Donahue said, because there was a study that came out about 2 years ago, and it said if we shift to an optimal diet, and this is not a vegan diet, or it is basically a diet that has a higher intake of whole grains, beans, in this study they included fish, fruits, vegetables, and nuts, and if we decrease the amount of red and processed meats and sugar-sweetened beverages and refined grains that we eat, if we go from a standard diet to this, if we do it in our 20s, women will get over 10 more additional years of healthy life expectancy. Guys get even more, 13. So if you shift at age 20, you get over a decade, probably, of more healthy life. Now, if you wait until you're 60, which I would not recommend, but if you did, you'd get over 8 years of healthy life expectancy. And even if you wait until you're 80, which just blows my mind, that if you wait that long, you can still get maybe another 3 or 3.5 years. So we all have this opportunity. I don't want to discount social determinants of health, food access. That's a whole nother lecture we could get into someday. But this is an opportunity. If you want to get the biggest bang for your buck, it's eat more beans, more legumes, more whole grains, more nuts, and eat less red meat and processed red meat. If you can just start there, you're going to see a huge, huge difference. But this is the bad news. We are so not doing that. So this is NHANES data for older adults in the United States. And what they found over the course of this almost 20-year study is that poor diet quality increased, intermediate diet quality decreased, and that the proportion of older adults with an ideal diet stayed disappointingly low at 0.4%. 0.4%. So this is an opportunity that we all have. There's a lot of room for improvement here. I might even use a dad joke and say this is low-hanging fruit, right? So we can definitely do this. All right. So I told you about why it's so important. What is this food as medicine? Food is, food's as, food's in. Like there's all these buzzwords that are going on about this. And there's lots of different definitions too. I mean, in general, it's how do you use this healthy food, the plant predominant, whole foods, fiber, phytonutrients, all that stuff. How do you use that to prevent but also treat and hopefully reverse disease? So there's a lot of people talking about it, but I like this one, I mean, because it's the American Heart Association, and so they kind of put it out there. They said, food as medicine may be defined as the provision of healthy food resources to prevent, manage, or treat specific clinical conditions in coordination with the healthcare sector. So that goes back to some of the other stuff we've been talking about. How do we get an integrated model that we can do this as part of healthcare? But the American Heart Association says an estimated 90% of the $4.3 trillion of annual cost of healthcare, so 90% of $4.3 trillion is spent on medical care for chronic disease, and for many of these diseases, diet is the major risk factor. So even modest improvements, that's what I want to go back to. Do not tell people to shoot for the moon unless they really have to because they're in crisis. Unless they really want to. I mean, if they really want to, that's awesome. But help them see small steps make big differences. And that's what this American Heart Association says. Small improvements can have a significant impact. I like it because this is a presidential advisory from the American Heart Association that lists, like the people on this panel are a who's who of evidence-based, people who have been doing nutrition research their entire careers. They are advocating for food as medicine. So I'm hopeful that we will heed their call and be able to put this into healthcare. And also just into our own lives, into our own society. Because that's the cool thing about food. It doesn't always have to be about healthcare. But it does have to be about access, and it also has to be about tasting good, which is part of what we will talk about in a little bit. Okay, so fun facts for each, and this is the interactive time. Okay, so for each 10-gram increase in daily fiber consumption, how much will I decrease my risk of all-cause mortality? Shout it out. Any guesses? What percentage? 10 grams. 10%, I hear that. Oh, man, you read the research. That's great. Okay, yes. So yeah, it's 10%. So 10 grams of fiber every day decreases your risk of all-cause mortality by 10%. That's pretty impressive. And we talked with Dr. Dave over here. The average amount that the normal American gets is like 15 grams of fiber or less. So we are obviously not taking advantage of this. But okay, so where do I get that? Like, how can I get 10 grams of fiber? And this is where we have to get better at where the rubber meets the road for people. If we just say to them, every 10 grams of fiber that you eat every day is going to decrease your risk by 10%. That's awesome. That's a great start. We're not even doing that now. So it would be great if we did that. But then they're like, okay, like where do I get that 10 gram of fiber? And that's where we have to go to. So for example, you get 12.5 grams in 1 cup of cooked chickpeas. You can get 8 grams in a cup of raspberries or blackberries. You can get 4 grams in a cup of cooked rolled oats. So like my breakfast this morning was at least a cup of the rolled oats, and it had blueberries, and it had flax, and it had chia seed, and it had banana on it, and it had walnuts on it. I mean, I probably got 20 grams of fiber already today. 20% less, good deal, right? Okay, 20% less risk of dying, that's a good deal. So what I want you to leave today with, and you've heard it already a bunch this morning, but I want you to have this little mantra in your head that fiber is your friend. I do care what else you eat, but if you are not eating fiber, you are missing out on like probably one of the most powerful tools at your disposal. So stick it on your fridge, say fiber is my friend, make a bumper sticker, put it on your bathroom mirror, because so many of us don't eat almost any fiber throughout the day, and that is why we are a nation of constipation and diverticulosis, because we're not getting enough of that. Okay. And when we strip the fiber out of food, then we get into kind of ultra-processed category. And there's ultra-processed food all over the place. It is everywhere. It's really easy to find. And it's very difficult to self-regulate. Other studies, I told you processed foods like about 2/3 of the American diet. Other NHANES studies say about 58%. But still, it is the majority. It is the majority of what we eat. And when you look at when we're eating ultra-processed foods, how our satiety systems work with that, we don't get full on ultra-processed foods. So we end up eating a whole lot more calories with very little nutritional benefit for those calories. So this inpatient study was Kevin Hall's group down in DC, who what they did is they put healthy people in the hospital and they fed them, they gave them everything they were able to eat. So like they couldn't go out to the vending machine or something, get something else. And they used these people as their own controls. So for part of the study, they fed them not what we would call really a whole foods plant-based diet, but a less processed, more whole food diet. And for the second part of the study, they fed them a more ultra-processed diet. And they told people, eat as much as you want. Don't worry about it, just like eat till you're full. And they followed them over time. And they found that during the time of the study where they were being offered the ultra-processed, low-fiber diet, they were just automatically eating about 500 calories more a day. They didn't notice. They weren't trying to do it. It just took them that long to actually feel full. So this is the sneaky thing that is happening to a lot of us, is that we are actually not able to feel full, so we keep eating because we have so much, like all the fiber is gone. And I'm just realizing that my visual aid is not on this stage. And so Chef Amanda, there is a lunchbox right there. And if you could put that there, it would make me very happy. Thank you. Okay, so when we talk about ultra-processed foods, we've stripped out the fiber. And let's look at another fun fact. How much does each daily serving of ultra-processed food increase my risk of cardiovascular mortality? What do you think? How much? It's a percentage again. So, yeah, let's see. It turns out to be 9%. So, wah, wah. Let's say, put down that bag of chips. Right? So for each serving of ultra-processed foods, we're kind of increasing our risk of cardiovascular mortality by quite a bit. So think about it when you're deciding what you're going to snack on. Are you going to snack on something that's got a lot of fiber in it, which decreases your risk of all-cause mortality? Are you going to snack on something that is actually going to increase your risk of cardiovascular mortality? And this comes back to the concept of caloric density. So with caloric density, it's how many calories you have for a specific volume of food. It's not perfect, it doesn't show how many nutrients or how much, what sort of fiber, because you could increase your caloric density, you could decrease your caloric density by increasing the amount of water in your food, which is good too. But the concept is that the same type of food, depending on what we do to it, is going to either make us feel more full or it's going to make us still hungry that we want to eat more. So if you look at just the humble potato, if you took 1,000 calories of potato chips, and these are Pringles potato chips, that's 54% of those calories are going to come from fat because that's what we do to potato chips, but it's only 6.3 ounces of food. So as we go through all of this, some of my students out here know the answer to this, but does anybody know what is the approximately number of pounds of food that fit basically in a human stomach over the course of a day if it has not been surgically altered? Like how many pounds of food do we eat a day? Give or take. I hear it's sort of, 3 to 4. 3 to 4, give or take. Maybe a little bit of, but about 3 to 4. So 6 ounces is not gonna fill you up barely at all. However, 1,000 calories of baked potatoes, that's 2.3 pounds of potatoes. I challenge you, but not really because I don't want it to be a TikTok thing, but I challenge you guys to try to eat 2.3 pounds of baked potatoes in a sitting. Like you're not gonna be able to. You're gonna feel way, 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 way too full. So it just shows the difference in what happens when we process our foods. All right, how about this one? Let me see if I can get this open. This is my audio or my visual aid here. I love this concept that 500 calories of carrots. What do you guys think? That much? Nope. That much. 3 pounds. Actually a little bit more than this much. So can you imagine if you tried to eat this many carrots in a sitting? I don't think it's possible. But bacon, 500 calories of bacon is only 0.2 pounds. So that ends up being a little over 3 ounces. So you can easily eat that and you're still hungry. So if we use this concept of caloric density, I think it's something that we can help teach our patients, think about for ourselves, of just make it simple as much as possible and think about, on average, how many calories do different types of food have per pound? We know we can only get about 3 to 4 pounds in our stomach in a day. How many calories per pound? This is based off of work by the awesome Jeff Novick, who is a dietitian who has really looked into this stuff. But if you look into, on average, vegetables have about 150 calories per pound. Fruits a little more, it's at 300. Potatoes, pasta, oatmeal, all those starchier things, about 450 calories per pound. Beans are at about 550 calories per pound. Then when we get more processed, breads and dried fruit and bagels, stuff like that, we get up to about 1,200 calories a pound. Pure sugar, so your sugar-sweetened beverages, that's 1,500 calories per pound. Chips are worse. Nuts and seeds. So nuts and seeds are very healthy, but they are very calorie dense. So you have to be aware of the volume of how much. We often say eat a handful, not a canful. Like, don't just open up that can of nuts and go sit down in front of the TV. That's not a good idea. But nuts and seeds are healthy in small amounts. And then oil is the most calorie dense thing on the planet, which is why when we fry things, the calories go so much higher. But if you have this in your mind and you tell patients or tell yourself, eat mostly to the left of this line, mostly over here. You can have some of the stuff on the right, but mostly over here, you're going to end up with a pretty decent, not exactly isocaloric, but you're going to feel full. You're not going to eat too many calories. You're going to not feel like you're deprived because you're going to be full. So that's one way to think about food as medicine that we could prescribe for people, is say, eat to the left of the line. So that would be a whole food, plant predominant diet with this is one of Chef Amanda's phenomenal salads that she makes. And it has all these different components are open for eating. There's so many things that we can eat. And don't forget the herbs and spices. I know Dr. Dave had that as one of his categories as well, because that's what makes it taste so much better. So let's look at that as our default, as our norm. And the other things are, sprinkled on top as like flavoring or as kind of like condiments. Okay, that sounds great, right? But does it work in the real world? Well, this is the diabetes prevention program. I think Dr. Suk mentioned it a little bit. And this is not just a food as medicine intervention, because it did actually have physical activity and group visits and other things along with it. But what they did is they looked at people who have pre-diabetes, so they had not hit the A1C level where they'd be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes yet. And they put them through an intensive therapeutic lifestyle change program over the course of the year as one of the groups. So that's the lifestyle group. They also took another group of them and just did standard care. They're like, eat less carbs, move around more, and followed them. The middle group was the medication group, and they were put on metformin, 850 milligrams twice a day, which is a fair amount of metformin. And the goal was to see how would it affect their progression to type 2 diabetes. So how did the medication work? It worked pretty well. I mean, it decreased their progression from standard of care to 31% less of those patients actually had type 2 diabetes at that 4-year mark. But lifestyle did even better, 58%. And they actually stopped this study early because the Institutional Review Board said it was unethical to continue this study when there was such a significant difference between the different arms, lifestyle and food as medicine, basically far and away being the most effective. So there's that one. This is actually data from Kellen right here locally, where in one of our intervention cohorts, we had out of the probably about 30 patients that we had, or participants, I should say, that are part of that, about 6 of them had pre-diabetes as far as their A1C levels when they started the program. And we also do a year-long program that's not just food, it's physical activity and stress relief and sleep and going outdoors and all that good stuff. But if you look in just 3 months, all of the people who had an A1C in the pre-diabetes range in 3 months had decreased their A1C. But 83% of them had actually gotten into the normal range in just 3 months. And the other one was so close. So this is workable in the real world, actually even here in our community. Now this is Dr. Neil Barnard's work, and basically he looked at people who are living in the community. They didn't get meals provided to them, but they were trained on what a more whole food plant-based diet would be. And they compared these people who already had type 2 diabetes, okay? So these people already had it, and they compared them to a control group that were told to eat the American Diabetes Association diet. And over the course of 74 weeks, they found, and so this was actually a randomized controlled study, which is one of our highest levels of evidence. They found that the people who were on the plant-based or plant-predominant diet, they had more weight loss, they had more change and decrease in their A1C, their total cholesterol dropped significantly more, and so did their LDL. So this can happen out in the real world. And this was compared to the American Diabetes Association diet, which is better than the standard American diet. So you can see if the difference between the two, definitely a winner for the whole food plant predominant. Okay. And then the Ornish Lifestyle Heart Trial, this is for people who already had diagnosed cardiovascular disease. They already had chest pain, they already had narrowing of their arteries. And Dr. Ornish's program is also not just food is medicine, that's a piece of it, but it's also things like how do you move? I like how he puts it. He says, eat well, move more, stress less, love more. So there's a whole component of this. This is the intensive cardiac rehab that Dr. Donahue was talking about. And what they did in this randomized control study is they looked at, for the people who went into the intervention group, they had this year-long program where they were really encouraged to move to whole food, plant predominant, low-fat diets, do more physical activity and all that good stuff, compared to the other people who were basically doing standard of care for somebody who has cardiovascular disease. And they actually did angiograms. So they actually saw how narrow the arteries were, and they found that for the control group, their narrowing got worse. That's kind of what usually happens with heart disease, is it gets worse over time. But for the intervention group, it not only stopped getting worse, it got better. And it got better so much that at the end of the 5-year study, there was a 14% difference in the narrowing, in the stenosis of the arteries between the people who were in the control group and the people that were in the intervention group. And since when we think about like diameter of a hollow tube, anybody remember physics? It makes a huge difference how much the diameter of that tube is related to how much blood or fluid can flow through it. So 14% is a huge difference as far as how much blood was going to the arteries of these people. All right, another fun fact. If I replace 3% of my daily calories that used to be coming from an animal-based protein source with an equivalent of plant-based protein, how much will I decrease my risk of cardiovascular mortality? What do you think? Percolating, okay. Well, 11% for men and 12% for women. So that doesn't mean that you have to and this is from this is from a very large study looking at the differences in just getting rid of some of your animal protein and substituting it with plant protein, because protein's important. I mean, we're going to be talking about physical activity later and sarcopenia and muscle strength, and you need your protein. But where you get your protein from, that is the key difference. So food as medicine seems really effective, right? So it must be one of the top areas of focus for medical education. But you guys, you want to do things again? Wait, yeah? No? Okay. I've turned you all into pessimists. Okay, so no, unfortunately, no. Even though it is one of the most important risk factors, it is not something that we as physicians and other healthcare professionals typically, at least traditionally, got a lot of training in. So if you look at a 2015 study here, John, you want to hit that for me? Thank you. In 2015, they surveyed all 133 U.S. medical schools at that time, and actually 121 responded, impressive, but less than half of all the schools reported teaching any nutrition in clinical practice. They taught about vitamin deficiencies, they taught about scurvy and pellagra, beriberi, things I have never seen ever in my entire doctor career. But they didn't teach about what do you do for somebody who's got diabetes, or what do you do for somebody who's got high cholesterol or hypertension. All right, now 71% of the schools that responded overall, if you even look at that they were providing some nutrition training, they failed to provide the minimum of 25 hours recommended. So 25 hours over 4 years, that's not long at all, but 71% were not meeting that standard. All right, cool. So that's 2015. Not cool. But 2015, we've got to be better now, right? Okay. So here's a 2023 survey of medical students. So this time they went to the students themselves instead of to the school and said, how much, nutrition training do you get? And what they found is that if students were at a school, or they said that they'd had any training on average, it was about 1.2 hours of nutrition. Actually, that was the average across all students. So if you look at all the students who responded, there was an average of about 1.2 hours per year of nutrition training. Now, for the students who said that, yeah, they were getting some nutrition training, for them it was like more like almost 3 hours per year. So 3 hours per year, so that's like 12 hours over the course of their medical school career. So again, similar to the 2015 study, they're just not getting even the minimum amount. But 57.6% said they'd not participated in any. So I don't think we've made any real progress yet overall in the United States. However, we are really, go back. There we go. We are really trying to make progress here in the Lehigh Valley. So here are some of our residents who are doing some food as medicine, culinary medicine activities. Our medical students, we have a lifestyle medicine interest group that gets involved in culinary medicine and other food as medicine activities. I think that this is such an important piece for the doctors of the future to not just know, and also the dietitians, and also the nurses, and all health professionals. Don't just know that this is an important thing. How do you actually do it? And how do you actually help people eat it and enjoy it? Okay, we're getting close to the how do you enjoy it and eat it part. So food as medicine seems really effective, right? But it must be too expensive. What do you guys think? Yes? No? Maybe? Maybe? Okay. Nah. So this was a study that looked at it was a cohort policy simulation model. And they looked at 6.3 million adults that were either on Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. And they had at least one diet-related disease, so it could be diabetes or heart disease or high cholesterol. And they also had one limitation in their instrumental activities of daily living. So maybe they had food access issues, maybe they couldn't drive, maybe they weren't able to get up and cook. So they had these two things. And what they did is they looked at if they were provided 10 medically tailored meals per week, just 10 a week, for 8 months out of the year, what would happen? And what they found is that a 1-year impact, they estimated that almost 1.6 million hospitalizations were averted, and the net healthcare cost savings after paying for the program, so after they already paid for the food as medicine, was $13.6 billion. It's crazy we're not doing this, right? It actually saves money. And what they looked at over 10 years is, again, a huge amount of hospitalizations averted. Net healthcare cost savings after paying for the program over 10 years, $185 billion. So it is not too expensive. It is, we don't know how to operationalize it yet and get it paid for in our system. And that's what we should all be agitating for. So that's medically tailored meals. How about just produce prescriptions, which are another potential step down, or some people maybe produce prescriptions are all they need. So here's some research from the Journal of the American Heart Association that looked at the economic impacts of produce prescriptions for people who had diabetes and food insecurity in the United States. And they, again, had 6.5 million adults. They had diabetes, food insecurity. They were kind of in that middle age to older age group. What'd they find? Over a 25-year period, the produce prescriptions were estimated to prevent 292,000, cardiovascular disease events, save $39.6 billion in healthcare costs and $4.8 billion in productivity costs, and generate 260,000 additional quality adjusted life years after paying for the program. So this is above and beyond the actual fruits and vegetables and everything that they were delivered. Now, they said, 25 years, I don't know, is it going to take that long to do return on investment? No, the intervention was actually cost effective at 5 years and 10 years as well. So the data is starting to get out there. It's small pilot programs, and then they do these simulation studies to show what it would be like if we did it for everybody. But it is not too expensive. It's actually crazily expensive that we are not helping people get their food as medicine. So as I start to wrap all this up, I am not anti-medication as a doctor. Some people need to be on medication. Dr. Donahue talked about, we want their LDL to be very low. They may not be able to get there just with their food. But if we are just looking at medications, we're leaving one of our most powerful tools in the toolkit. We're not actually leveraging what we could to be able to make a difference for our patients. But now this gets to the tricky part. If I prescribe you one of those pills, you may or may not take it. I mean, not everybody does, but it doesn't matter how it tastes, right? You'll either take it or you won't, but the taste is not an issue. That's why food as medicine is also challenging to operationalize, because you need a team. You need your pharmacist, And you need not only the doctors, but you need the chefs and the farmers. We actually have some farmers in the audience today. I'm so excited about that. We need our farmers to grow some amazing food, and we need our chefs to be able to prepare it in a way that is amazingly delicious. So I am so honored and excited to introduce you to one of Kellen's secret weapons, which is Chef Amanda Pietrobono.
Nice.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Yeah, so I do just have to brag about her for a moment. She is going to talk about her own, journey and all that sort of stuff. But when Chef Amanda became part of Kellen Foundation, that is when our food as medicine interventions just took off, because it has to be delicious. You have to want to eat it, or else it's not going to be sustainable. But it is not only possible, it is actually making the healthy choice the easy choice is the way that we're going to be able to make a difference. So please tell us, come here, please tell us. Robert loves us.
Oh, hello,
Hi, Robert. So please tell us how, as doctors or as dietitians or as healthcare professionals, if we are going to prescribe this, how are we going to get people to do it? So, God.
It is not lost on me, the irony that I am the one standing in between you and lunch today. So I will make sure to keep this going so that we can all go outside and really enjoy some delicious plant-based food. But for those of you that do not know me, my name is Amanda Pietrobono. I'm the Director of Operations and Culinary Medicine here at Kellen Foundation. I have an incredible team making your lunch right now, so I am not the only person that Kellen is lucky to have. You'll get to see all of them in black coats in a little bit. But my background, where did I come from besides the Lehigh Valley here in Pennsylvania? I originally went to the Culinary Institute of America and I studied in French pastry. What the heck is she doing up here at a lifestyle medicine conference? I got my associates in baking and pastry. I then got my bachelor's in applied food studies and business management. And then I went to New York City and I worked for Robert De Niro as a pastry chef. I worked in downtown Tribeca. I worked at the film festival. I got to make a lot of delicious pastries for celebrities. It was an incredible experience. But my husband and I wanted to come back to the Valley, have kiddos, have dogs. And so I transitioned from that traditional restaurant setting to more of teaching and healthy lifestyle education and teaching kiddos, getting out in the gardens. But when I came back, I did not have all the knowledge that I have now. So when I graduated, I was 21 and I was roughly 200 pounds. Pounds is just a number. That doesn't really matter. But how I felt was a big one. So I was used to the professional yo-yoing of, as I know most of you in this room understand, work 12 hours, you get home, you don't know what to eat, you're exhausted, there's no time for social connection, exercise, sleep. So I was just on this constant back and forth, go to work, come back, eat delicious food, but food that made me feel not so great. So my relationship with food, even though I originally went into food with a passion to make people happy through it, was not necessarily making my body happy in the end. So I knew I personally needed a change. I got that cute dog, by the way. She's right there. Basil. I have Basil, and I also have Nutmeg and Fennel. Culinary names, come on. But I knew I needed a change, but I really had no idea where to start. That's where we bring in Kellen Foundation. I came into the world of the amazing Eric and Meagan, and there was no Kellen Kitchens at that point. They were like, okay, we want to start more of a lifestyle medicine initiative. We want you to start cooking plant-based, plant-forward. Can you do that? I was like, absolutely not. So you're telling me that I need to take salt and sugar and fat out of the food that I'm providing. And if any of you know a lot about French cooking, that's kind of where the flavor starts. So I was like, you're crazy. I don't want to eat that piece of broccoli. The other people will not want to either. And they said, you know what? Okay. I know you're competitive. If anybody in this room knows me, I'm competitive. I like to learn. They said, do your best. Let's see what you can come up with. So we then went for about a year of a lot of experiments and research, and there's a lot more things available nowadays with recipes and stuff on the internet. Back then it was just starting, and there was a lot of failed attempts. I'm specifically remembering a pie shell try made out of quinoa. It was crunchy. It was bad. Don't do it. There was a lot of things. I remember a mac and cheese out of almond milk, vanilla almond milk. Don't do it. So we tried all of this in our kitchen, but through the experimentation, through this research, we did end up actually making some food that tasted good. And in the end, myself, but also my team and my family was starting to experience this transition as well. Because who was I to stand up and talk to kiddos or talk to intervention programs or talk to medical students and doctors and say, eat this food, if I wasn't eating it myself? So just by surrounding myself with a tribe of people, a tribe of professionals and community members, farmers, people throughout the Lehigh Valley that was thinking the same way, we all kind of shifted our diets and our health at the same time. So I shifted more so to a predominantly whole food, plant-forward diet. Pizza's also my kryptonite. I'm right there with Meagan. So if it's there, I'll have it. But luckily, our family, we have some salad, we have roasted vegetables, we have different food items on the table now. But I ended up losing the 60, 70 pounds that I gained in culinary school. I've now kept it off without feeling like I'm dieting. No more yo-yo dieting. I'm just eating food. And I have a lot more energy to do the things that make me happy. Now, energy, I say with an asterisk, because I now have these two little ones, and they take a lot of my energy up. This is Charlotte on the left and Oakley on the right. They're my 11-month-old twins. And if you notice, that is broccoli on their high chairs. And they like it. This was not just a staged photo. They eat it very happily, much to my husband's surprise. So these shifts that we made for those in our community to learn the stuff that we make at Kellen Kitchens, we're not just making it for those that are sick or who need it now. We're eating it ourselves. And so over the past 8 years at Kellen, it's really reinforced my passion for food, but not only for food to taste good, but to also help nourish our bodies at the same time. So we get to take this not only with just 11-month-old twins and have broccoli and lentils. They're weird. They love to eat beets. Sure, great. We get to then transition into teaching the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders in the Lehigh Valley, teaching intervention programs with adults. Adults are a lot harder than kiddos. Your habits are already cemented, but also hang out with medical students and residents as well. So why lifestyle medicine? This has been touched on a lot today, but as many of you know, 80% of chronic disease is directly related to our lifestyle choices, and the opposite of what was originally thought of, that DNA is our destiny. So my grandparents are sick, and then my parents got sick, which means I'm gonna end up getting sick. That's not necessarily the case. If what we eat and what we put on our plate directly influences what happens later on in life, more so than sometimes genetics. So eating whole plant-based foods can increase energy, longevity, overall well-being, but the real question is, can you make it taste good? And the answer is yes. Why do we want to eat more plants? Heart health, reduces cholesterol, blood pressure, inflammation. And if any of the doctors in this room went up to somebody and was like, I can decrease all of that if you take this pill every day, do you think most people would do it? It's a wonder pill. That's fantastic. But if I went up to somebody and said, okay, I want you to eat this beet salad with arugula and lentils and lemon, some people would be like, maybe I'll take those 5 less years. That's okay. But if you can teach people it can taste good, it really is. 5 extra years is definitely worth it. It is nutrient dense. Plants are full of fiber, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. Your gut health will thank you. I don't have to get into the specifics of that, but I promise you being more consistent is a lot more fun. And sustainability, which we have talked about today, a plant-forward diet has a lower environmental impact, which we all should care about what is happening to Mother Earth. Flavor. The standard American diet is sad. It is very sad. It is the optimum thing of cheap and easy food that is flavored with salt, sugar, and fat. When we go out to eat, restaurants don't have as much time to add different cooking methods, add different spices and herbs, or they don't choose to, or it costs too much in their thought. But if we are choosing to eat more plant-forward, you can add all of the flavor without adding the salt, sugar, and fat by thinking a little bit outside of the box. So, easy plant-based swaps. I'm not up here to tell you that you all of a sudden have to go from eating pizza every day to eating arugula salads, though they are yummy. Easy plant-based swaps, like Meagan mentioned, that we can get into our diet, just a couple things a day, can really end up making a lasting impact. So if you are using a lot of butter and oil, you can rethink things and start using stuff like tahini or applesauce or vegetable stock. Do not saute in applesauce. It does not work. But if we want to roast vegetables, you can coat them in tahini. If you want to saute, you could use some vegetable stock. If you're baking, applesauce is a great sub-in for oils, or you can use almond milk yogurt. That can work as well. Cheese is a lot of people's favorite thing. If we could reduce our consumption of cheese, that would be fantastic. So adding in nutritional yeast into our sauces. Some really plant-forward humans love just eating nutritional yeast. Go you guys. But for me, I like to blend it into my sauces, into my soups, into my dips. Cashews are fantastic as well to get that creamy consistency. And hummus on top of literally anything is a good go-to. Salt enhances flavor, but can also enhance our possibility of getting diseases later on. So if we can use stuff like citrus juice and vinegars, fresh herbs, spices, the standard American should be trying to get less than either a teaspoon or 2/3 of a teaspoon of salt a day. We on average get about 2 times that. When I'm teaching 3rd and 4th graders, I said, who has made cookies before at home? Anybody want to raise their hand who's ever made cookies at home? Come on, I won't judge you. We make cookies. If you are measuring for vanilla, that little teaspoon, that's how much salt or less we're trying to eat every day for a healthier outlook. Do we think we're eating more or less than that? Definitely more. And it's not only the salt that we're putting on top of the foods, it's the salt that is already in the foods if we're eating a lot of prepared. So trying to add more of these things in, like vinegars and herbs and spices, will definitely help. Sugar, all of us like our coffees and our sweetened things in the mornings, but trying to shift to more natural sugars like dates, maple syrups, agave, mashed bananas, sweet potatoes, pumpkin. When we're baking specifically, in Kellen Kitchens, we try to half, if not third, all of the sugars of standard recipes. So getting creative with what you add in. It still will taste good. You're just not adding as much of just cane sugar in. And then milk. We live in a world that plant-based milks are now readily available, and I don't know, for any of you that go to Starbucks, they stop charging extra for it now. So hey-o, extra dollar in our pockets. But we have almond milk, oat milk, soy milk, cashew milk, coconut milk. They all have health benefits, different proteins, different calories, using them in different ways. If you're trying to have less calories, going more with almond milk. If you're trying to have a lot more protein, some soy milk. Coconut milk is great in small uses of plant-based cooking, but please don't start drinking 1 cup to 2 cups of coconut milk a day. That'll be a lot of saturated fat that you might not realize. And again, as my dad found out, please don't use vanilla almond milk in your mac and cheese recipe. It does not work as the way that you may think. And eggs. Has anybody been looking at the news recently? Apparently, we all need to be making $1 million to get 12 eggs at the store. So if you're trying to save money or save your health, switching over more to flax egg, chia seed eggs, aquafaba for binding, all of these things for baking. Do not take chia seeds and put them into your Western omelet in the morning. That's not going to work. But if you do things like, you've tried it, Dr. Dave Donovan. If you use things like a tofu scramble in that way, that will taste a lot better. So I gotta go with this clicker. I gotta go down. So cooking with limited oil, no problem. Again, I'm not saying get rid of oils, fats. I'm not saying go all the way over, but there are a lot of ways that we can add flavor without adding things that aren't as good for us. Air fryers are now one of the best inventions that a lot of us get to use. You can also use a convection oven for more of that crispy taste. You can roast, you can bake, you can grill, broil, steam, poach, braise. All of these things will add different flavors and textures without just deep fat frying. And then also using high quality cooking pans or cooking utensils will assist as well. So what are we going to eat? That's the main question. You're up here and I'm saying, eat more vegetables. And you're sitting here like, yeah, But I have a 9-to-5 job, and then I have 2 kids and 3 dogs, and I have a family member that I try to take care of, and my kid has piano lessons, and then I have to run and do this. Where does the time go? Well, meal prepping and batch cooking will be your best friend. And luckily for us, trying to eat more of a plant-forward diet, you can utilize similar ingredients and try to pull from them throughout the week. So for me, in my household, I always make a massive batch of oatmeal or chia seed pudding, like what you guys had this morning. Did that taste okay? Were we good with it? Cool. That is one of the easiest things to make. You plant-based milk, you got chia seeds, you got oats, you store that in the fridge and then top it with your favorite toppings. And you have a delicious, fiber-rich, protein-packed, nutrient breakfast that you can eat in your kitchen, or if you're like me, on the go, in the car, while also holding a coffee mug and stirring. Sorry. We also have other things like avocado toast. We all know that one. That's been a big one for a while, but have you done avocado toast with roasted vegetables and beans? I'm a big proponent of having beans for breakfast when you can, so that's a great way to get that fiber in. And then breakfast potatoes, tofu scrambles, all of these are a good option. Lunches and dinners are also easy if you're able to either prep them beforehand or order from Kellen Kitchens for your easy office. Sorry, I had to do the plug. But if you have an easy to access plant-based food that you can pull from the fridge or you can pull from your desk instead of possibly then going and stopping at Chipotle in between meetings, which Chipotle isn't bad. I'll stop there too. But having stuff that will fill you up but also get you excited. What I notice a lot of the times when we're talking to adults is we say that we want to shift towards a plant-based diet, and they go full on in and take stuff and say, I bought 2 pounds of greens and I have all the beans in my fridge and I have all these vegetables and I just don't want to eat it. That defeats the purpose. So you want to try to choose foods that you already like to eat and shift more of the plants in. So salads can be really exciting. Stews and chilies with a hearty whole grain bread on the side. Doing stir-fried vegetables, doing crispy air-fried tofu, a burrito bar, veggie burgers. Mr. Eric Ruth can put down like 3 veggie burgers in a salad for most lunches. So you got to get excited with what you're trying to eat every day. And snacks that wow. These are kid approved, these are husband approved and grandparent approved. So trail mix, smoothies, plant-based muffins, buffalo cauliflower bites. I was at a conference with Dr. Dave Donahue and he had a sweet potato round with barbecue lentils and avocado salsa that I still dream about. I still do. So we make that now at our house. We have either barbecue jackfruit or barbecue lentils to pull from. Roasted chickpeas or hummus and guacamole. A lot of this stuff is easily accessible, more so now. Some of it does take a little bit of prep, but having the emergency food that we call it, that you can easily grab, will help you stay a little bit more on track. Must-have kitchen tools. I'm fully aware you all do not have Kellen Kitchens at your house. I don't have Kellen Kitchens at my house. Sometimes I want to go from my kitchen to that commercial kitchen purely because there's a dishwasher that cleans the dishes in 60 seconds. Anybody else want that at home? Yeah, I would definitely like to put that in. But there are some tools that make plant-based and plant-forward cooking a little easier. One is a sharp chef knife. Contrary to popular belief, sharper will actually make you not cut your fingers as easily as a dull knife because you won't slip off of things. So having a good sharp chef knife will help. A high-speed blender will also help. There were way too many failed attempts of trying to make a creamy sauce with cashews with a sad blender. So if your blender is from 1960s, I'm sorry, we might need to update it a little bit. Soak your cashews too, that'll help. Food processor is great for things like hummuses. If you don't feel like chopping at the end of the day, just throw all your vegetables in and saute them. Nobody will know. Ceramic and stainless steel cookware, so you can cook at a high heat without a lot of oil and it won't stick. Spiralizer and mandolin. We are getting used to zucchini noodles in my household, mostly because the kids right now pick them up and throw them at our face. But they at least think it's fun. But for all of us who would eat them, it adds a great extra texture, but also nutrient to just not just pastas. You can make it fun with different colors. And also, your phone. I was here at 11 p.m. at night, kids were sleeping, husband was sleeping, I was putting together this presentation, and I was like, this slide needs more. What the heck do I add on this? And what did I pick up? My phone. I Googled. I said, what should I have in my kitchen? Our phone is one of the greatest resources when we're in a food rut. If you don't know what to make, or you are like in a chopped situation at home and you're like, I have lentils, I have rice, I have frozen vegetables, what do I do with it? Google and see what it comes up with. I promise you that it will probably come up with some really good ideas. How do I make plant-based meals filling? I get this question all the time. I say, Chef Amanda, if I'm going to be cutting out meat, how the heck am I going to be full? Well, guess what? Meat has no fiber. None. Meat doesn't have fiber. Plant-based ingredients like fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, whole grains and beans, those have fiber that is going to fill you up. And so as long as you fill your plate with that and you prioritize things like plant-based proteins, delicious things like sweet potatoes, so starchy root vegetables, they will provide you with lasting energy throughout the day, and also your body will be happy. You will not eat lunch and then feel like you have to fall asleep during our awesome breakout sessions, which you are not allowed to do. So hopefully the plant-based lunch will fuel you so you can keep learning throughout the day. Include healthy fats like Meagan was talking about, so avocados, nuts, seeds, tahini. They add richness and satiety. Oh my Lord, I need more coffee today. But they make you feel good. Should you have 4 avocados in one sitting? No. Should you have the can of nuts and seeds? No. But adding them as a topping or adding them to make things creamy, they will for sure add a delicious richness to your meals. And then don't forget texture. Do not eat baby food. It's sad. Only eating pureed soft foods will not make you feel good. So if you use a lot of different cooking methods, so roasting and blending and layering of the ingredients, you will be excited to eat your meal, and it will create a more satisfying eating experience overall. How do I keep my meals exciting? We live in the Lehigh Valley. There is many wonderful things about the Lehigh Valley. Pennsylvania Dutch food, I'm sorry, Eric, maybe not so much. That's not one of the best things with flavor. So trying a lot of global flavors, Mediterranean, Asian, Latin, Middle Eastern, all of those things will keep it a lot more exciting as you keep going. And switching up the cooking methods, not just roasting or baking or blanching, making a lot more interesting of things. But one of the great things about the Lehigh Valley is using fresh seasonal ingredients. We are very lucky to have incredible farmers throughout the valley that during the year we have access to so many different wonderful things. So if we're trying to focus on eating seasonally, your ingredients will taste a lot better than if we're trying to have berries in January. But if you're having an incredible tomato in the middle of summer and you're highlighting awesome potatoes even throughout the winter and squash, your meals will end up tasting a lot more delicious. And make mealtime fun. Maybe don't throw zucchini noodles at your mother during mealtime, but there are a lot of other ways you can make mealtime fun. Surround yourself with people that make you happy. The big thing about food that Meagan touched upon, but also is a big thing with lifestyle medicine, food should not make people sad. Originally, when I first came to this, I had such a unhealthy relationship with food. I wanted to eat by myself, or I wanted to kind of not share the experience with others because I didn't know what they were going to be eating or what I was going to be eating or hiding things. But when we start to experiment with plant-forward cooking, if you can surround yourself with people that want to try the food too, or at least like maybe put it on the table next to the other things so they might get a little interested, it'll make mealtime a lot more interesting. So Meagan talked about, is it expensive from a healthcare point? But this is, isn't it plant-based eating expensive from a personal point for in your house? Not necessarily, but you have to do it correctly. So sticking to budget-friendly staples, that is beans and grains and rice, quinoa, oats, seasonal produce. Right now, my kid's favorite food is raspberries. Is it raspberry season? No. So my Wegmans bills are a little higher, but for the rest of the time, we're trying to eat as the season goes and sticking to foods that are staples that we can cook from scratch and not going straight to the plant-based prepared section. Because as soon as we are buying most of the prepared food, your bill is going to go up. Cooking at home, trying as much as you can to prepare meals from scratch. I know all of us are busy, so even if you can commit to just that breakfast or that snack or a big old pot of chili for the week, just those little shifts will end up helping as your week goes on. Buying in bulk, I am a massive happy person when I go to Sam's Club and Costco and Wegmans. We get the huge bags of rice and beans and frozen berries. If you can buy in bulk and use the food from that instead of going out and doing little trips, that will help. And then using frozen and canned fruits and vegetables as much as you can. You have to watch out for the added salt and sugar for preservatives, but frozen fruits and veggies are just as nutritionally good for us as the fresh, as long as they are not coated in butter, as the canned corn that we grew up with. And then reduce your waste. Try to plan your meals where you can utilize the ingredients in more ways than one. So when I make a big pot of 3-bean sweet potato chili in the beginning of the week, I'm going to have it as chili with guacamole one day. I'm going to have it in a breakfast burrito with a tofu scramble another day. I'll probably have it over rice or in a burrito at another point, and then maybe I'll have it cold on the go for breakfast another time. So trying to utilize it in many ways will help not only your wallet, but your taste buds as well. Speaking of taste buds, do you guys know that we get a new set of taste buds every about 3 to 4 months? Yeah, I know, isn't that fun? We teach that to kiddos. So our taste buds get used to what we are feeding them. So if my taste buds are used to having Taco Bell and Chipotle and Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, that is what they will crave. But if I start to slowly add plant-based foods into it, my taste buds will stop getting the onslaught of salt, sugar, and they will start to hopefully really get excited about a peach from Shoals in the middle of summer, or a massive sheet tray of roasted vegetables. So small intentional swaps like this can make a big impact on our health, and it will introduce a lot more vibrant nutrients and help you nourish cravings a little bit better. It will also have your taste buds evolve. So hopefully not only your taste buds will start to enjoy the taste, the people around you as well. So when I started this, my husband was very much a meat and potatoes guy. He grew up in Reading, so not that far away. And I just started having these foods available at home because I wanted to try them. He was like, that looks like a rabbit is eating that. And I'm like, Andrew Pietrobono, that's not very nice. But I kept having it on the table. And a little side note now, Andrew Pietrobono is the executive chef of FACLM, so he did come around. But once you start to just shift and have these things available in social settings, you're eating it, and then maybe your cousin is eating it, and your aunt and your dad, the people surrounding you help with this shift as well. So not making it as a you need to eat this, but hey, you might want to try to eat this. It's pretty good. I do not have a cookbook yet. I am knee-deep in Twinners, but it is under construction. We would like to create a Kellen Kitchens cookbook. So for those that are looking for new plant-based recipes to try, these are 3 of my favorite websites. There are a lot of resources available, and sometimes they are not the best, like that quinoa tart shell. But these 3 have a great variety of plant-based, plant-forward, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free options, and I would say that 95% of the recipes that I've tried from them have been really good. You can always make modifications, like if there's oil, swapping in stuff like vegetable stock or applesauce or bananas or sweet potatoes, but these 3 have been pretty wonderful. And because I promised that you would get to eat, I would like you to go eat lunch. I know, Meagan, I know. But if anybody has any questions during lunch or during the rest of the presentation and would like to talk about ways to kickstart your plant-forward eating, please come up. And I would like to thank you for listening, and I wish you all the best with happy cooking. There you go.